much for tuning into the last episode of We Need to Talk. Again, we're discussing the 4 basic styles of communication. So to do a recap, we started off by talking about passive communication. Again, passive communication is when we fail to exert, to express our needs and our desires, our feelings and our thoughts, which leads us to feel like we're a victim, and is actually incorrect in this feeling. Just because we really do have the opportunity to express ourselves, we unfortunately choose not to. So with this particular style, it is I lose, you win. So that was passive. The next thing was aggressive communication, which is on the opposite end of the spectrum. That is when we do a wonderful job in expressing ourselves. However, it is at the expense of the other person. So while we may be able to articulate our thoughts, our needs, and our desires, we do it by putting down the other person, or shaming the other person, or shutting that other person down. And so that sense, with this particular style, it's saying I win, but you lose. So that leads us to passive aggressive communication, which is a combination of both passive and aggressive communication. It actually still is a form of aggressive communication, just because you're still mirroring some of the things that you find in aggressive communication style. It's just a little bit different. It's just indirect. So with aggressive communication, that attack is usually direct. It's usually to your face. However, when it comes to passive aggressive communication, it's not to your face. It's behind your back. It's indirect. And so at the same time, even though the tactics are a little bit different, the intent is still the same, and the foundation is still the same. Unfortunately, we are failing to acknowledge the other person. The thing is, though, we're not even allowing ourselves to express ourselves. That's the thing. We're not actually using the opportunity to articulate and express ourselves, which is what leads to resentment, which leads to the indirect forms of aggressive behavior, where we attack that person. So with this particular communication style, it's saying I lose, you lose. Now that leads us to the final. I'm gonna say this is like the Beyonce of communication styles. This is the most effective one. This is assertive communication style. So out of all the styles, the reason why this works is because, one, assertive means that you're standing your ground. You're actually expressing yourself. You're expressing your needs, your desires, your thoughts, and your feelings. At the same time, you're actually acknowledging that other person and their thoughts and their feelings. You understand that, one, you have a right to express yourself, but two, they also have a right, and everybody's good. It's essentially saying, I'm important, you're important. So I win and you win. This is the best when it comes to relationships, when it comes to anything in the work environment, when it comes to whatever type of fellowships you may find yourself in. Being assertive really, really helps. So what I wanted to do is I want to break down assertive communication, just because it's really, really helpful. It's a great way to just make sure everybody's good. The root of this particular communication style is based on self-esteem. It is based on compassion, empathy, and humility. When we are dealing with other people, we are actually encouraged to humble ourselves. So the thing is, if you were to humble yourself and that other person were to humble themselves as well, you're actually on the same field. A lot of times we find ourselves, either we're humbling ourselves and that person chooses not to, or maybe they're esteeming us or they're humbling themselves and we choose not to. And so the thing with assertive communication is a level of humility, which I want to say is a work in progress. So I want to give out examples. I want to talk about, ways to exert yourself a little bit more so that you are more assertive, just because there's a lot of benefits. And I want to go into that before we go into some of the skills and some statements. So the benefits of this particular communication style is, one, there's a level of respect all around. It's mutual respect. Just because the conversation is built on mutual respect, you're acknowledging that person, but you're also acknowledging yourself. It actually, when we're assertive, we are actually increasing our chances of boosting our self-esteem, because we're saying, hey, I have a right. Hey, I'm human, and I'm worthy. I deserve. to be heard. It's not a sense of arrogance, it's just a sense of confidence. I want to stress that it's not a sense of arrogance, it's a sense of confidence. You're recognizing, you know what, this is what I deserve as a human being. But guess what? This is what you deserve as a human being too. Everybody wins. So the drawbacks with this particular style of assertive communication, y'all, guess what? There is no drawbacks. There's nothing. There's no negatives with this particular style because, again, you're acknowledging yourself and you're acknowledging that person. So you see, I'm using the fingers here because I'm like, you're awesome, okay? I'm awesome too. So that's the beauty of this. So I want to go over some signs and indicators that we are using assertive communication. Again, assertive communication is I matter, you matter. I'm standing on my ground and I acknowledge the ground I'm standing on, but at the same time, I'm not acknowledging the ground you're standing on. And again, I say the word acknowledge. Acknowledge is different from acceptance. I do not have to agree with everything you say, and you don't have to agree with everything I say just to validate each other. Some indicators, some signs which show that we're using assertive communication. One being the I feel, I think statements. This is a powerful statement because it's one showing that you can stand up and acknowledge the ground you're on, but at the same time you are recognizing that other person. So the I feel, I think statement is essentially, it's a sandwich type of statement, okay? It's saying I feel blank when you do or when you say blank because I think blank. This is a sandwich because you're starting with an I and you're ending with an I. When it comes to conflict resolution and conflict management, it's always in the best interest to whoever is starting off the conversation, starting off with your accountability. So if I'm starting the conversation, if I'm expressing myself, start by acknowledging your accountability. It says, I feel. The thing is, at the end of the day, while we cannot control other people, we are held responsible for our feelings and our thoughts. So by saying I felt or I feel blank, you're acknowledging this is my responsibility. My feelings are my responsibility. That's my accountability because they're in my control. So you're saying I felt blank when you did or said blank. Here's the thing, to also acknowledge your ground, you're also sharing what that person did that was associated to your feeling, okay? So you're saying, I felt blank when you did blank because I thought this. Again, we are responsible for our own thoughts. We are responsible for our own feelings. Let's use this as an example. We can say, I felt hurt when you ate the last chicken wing because I thought it showed you didn't care about me. Okay, so I felt the emotion when this action that you did occurred because I thought. Okay, and here's the thing with this, the accountability with I thought is because there's a chance your perception could be wrong. You know, it opens up a great opportunity for discussion. I felt that it meant you did not care, that you were not considerate. This allows that other person to explain. And now it's not attacking. Guess what? Y'all having a dialogue. Y'all like a ping pong. It's like, oh, okay, okay, it goes back and forth. So this is a great opportunity. Again, when it comes to assertiveness, humility is key. Always start off with the things you are doing or you could do, or basically take accountability of your actions, but at the same time, it is okay and it's within your right to point out the things that this other person is doing. So that is a great way to be assertive. That's a great way to say, you know what? I am responsible for my feelings. I am responsible for my thoughts. However, you are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for the things you say. So that's how we have this balance. Some other signs of assertive behaviors or assertive communication is one, we're listening. We're just listening. It's okay to talk, but it's okay to listen. So we're listening without interrupting. Here's the thing. Sometimes we may find that we don't listen to understand. We listen to respond. With assertive communication, you're actually listening to really get into that mindset of the other person. You're really trying to connect and see their side of the story. This is where empathy comes in. This is essential where compassion comes in, because it could be a clarity moment. So when we use assertive communication, we're thinking about the other person by listening to them and by being objective and by being open. Also, again, when it comes to communication, body language is key. When we use assertive communication, the demeanor is usually open. You usually relax. Just because I'm good, you're good. Hey, let's talk. We need to talk. Let's talk. So your body language actually matches what you're saying. You're not defensive, although you're saying whatever. No, your actions, your body language, your mannerisms are actually reflecting the content of what you're saying. So there's congruence, which helps to increase clarity and decrease confusion. Another sign of assertive communication is that we are actually still, at the end of the day, acknowledging our thoughts and feelings. We're expressing them, and we're expressing them in a way that's direct. So there's no kind of question or indirectness about it. You're still being firm, you're still being direct, you're still showing compassion, but you're still expressing yourself and being clear on articulating your needs and your thoughts and your feelings, because you understand, one, this is not a competition, so I don't have to boost myself up. I don't have to change my demeanor tone. I can express myself in a calm manner just because I know I'm worthy to be heard. It's not a competition. It's a collaboration. So that's another thing I want to stress. It's not a competition. It's not a you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong. It's no, we both have a right to express ourselves regardless if we agree or not. We both have that right. So let's collaborate.